Thank you. जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन, यमुना तीरावनचारी, यमुना तीरावनचारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी, जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam ततो जयमुदीरये. नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम कैंटो 6 चैप्टर 11 टेक्स्ट 24. अहं हरे तव पादैकमूला दासानुदासो भवितास्मि भूयः. मनस्मरयिता शुपतेर्गुणांस्ते गृणीतवा कर्म करोतु कायः. अहं हरे तव पादैकमूला दासानुदासो भवितास्मि भूयः. मनस्मरेता शुपतेर्गुणांस्ते गृणीतवा कर्म करोतु कायः. अहं हरे तव पादैकमूलः स्मरेताशुपतेर्गुणांस्ते गृणीत वा कर्म करोतु कायः. One more. Ladies, please. Aham, I, Hare, O my Lord, Tava, of your Lordship, Pada Ekamula, whose only shelter is the lotus feet, Dasa Anudasaha, the servant of your servant, Bhavitasmi, shall I become, Bhuyaha, again, Manaha, my mind, Smareta, may remember, Asupatehe, of the Lord of my life, Gunan, the attributes, Te, of your Lordship, Granita, may chant, Vak, my words, Karma, activities of service to you, Karotu, may perform, Kayaha, my body. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servants who find shelter only at your lotus feet? O Lord of my life, may I again become their servant, so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes, my words may glorify those attributes, and my body always engage in the loving service of your Lordship. Purport. This verse gives the sum and substance of devotional life. One must first become a servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord, Dasa Anudasa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised, and he also showed by his own example, that a living entity should always desire to be a servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. Gopi Bhartur Padakamalayo Dasa Dasa Anudasaha. This means that one must accept a spiritual master who comes in the disciplic succession and is a servant of the Lord. Under his direction, one must then engage one's three properties, namely his body, mind, and words. The body should be engaged in physical activity under the order of the master. The mind should think of Krishna incessantly, and one's words should be engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord. If one is thus engaged in the loving service of the Lord, one's life is successful. ओमज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. I might cover more verses than one. Up until this verse, Vritrasura is speaking to Indra, and he said to Indra that I am not looking. Before that, he said, please kill me with your thunderbolts and sever my head from my body, because I want to get rid of this body and I want to go back to Godhead. And as far as victory is concerned and ruling over the three worlds is concerned, that is all yours. I don't need this kingdom. The difference is I am thinking about the lotus feet of the Lord, and I want to establish myself there. As far as being the sovereign representative throughout the three worlds, you can keep it. I don't need it. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitamba jagadisha kamaye. Jagadisha, to be the master of the universe. Na kamaye, I don't desire it. And he says, because those things that are material and become a person's possessions, they create all sorts of disturbances in the mind. They create envy, quarrel, distress, and he gave a whole long list of things. And then he said, as far as the Lord is concerned, he does not want his devotee to acquire any material position or material goods in this life. All he cares about for his devotee is to attain the Supreme Lord's lotus feet. That is all that is Krishna's interest. And for a devotee, that is all the interest as well. There isn't a third thing. And so now, he stopped talking to Indra pretty much directly, and his absorption, he's withdrawn his mind and senses from this conversation with Indra, and now is praying to the Lord directly. And in general, the very first thing one asks from the Lord is the most important thing. We notice that when we are in distress or something, we come in front of the Lord. The first thing is we blurt out what is bothering us. Although the proper way of prayer unto Krishna is glorification of Krishna. But we say, oh, I'm in this difficulty, can you please help me? In his heart, the very first thing that comes out is that he wants to be a servant of the servant of the servant. Aham hare tava padaik moola dasa dasanudasa. This padaik moola dasa means the person who is a servant of the Lord, and for him, he is only interested in one thing. That's the lotus feet of the Lord. Means the position as a servant of Krishna. That is the greatest opulence as compared to anything else. To be accepted as a servant of Krishna. That is why at initiation, the supposed joy is when we get the name Dasa or Dasi. That's the joy. That now I'm being accepted as a servant. Now it doesn't mean that without the name one cannot serve. We're all supposed to be servant of the Lord in all our activities. But he's asking for being a servant of the servant of the servant. Uh, I'll tell you a joke. The Mayavadis, we chant the mantra, or this is our, I guess, paradigm, that we want to be the dasa, anudasa, servant of the servant of the servant. The Mayavadi mantra is, I am that. I am that means I am the Supreme. I am Brahman. Uh, Aham Brahmasmi is what the disciple is supposed to say, and the Guru is supposed to say, uh, Tattvamasi, that you are that. This is the Mayavadi, I guess, success. So there was two roommates, and one roommate was a devotee, the other was a confused person who's he's seeking. So the second person met a met an impersonalist who taught him the mantra Soham, Soham. So in Sanskrit, Soham means So Aham, Sa Aham. I am that. I am the Supreme. I am that. So when he came home, the devotee roommate said, "What is this you're chanting? Soham, Soham." He said, "That's what I learned." So then the devotee roommate said, "Okay, we'll have to make a little adjustment. In front of your mantra, just put a da." So he became Dasoham, Dasoham. I am a servant, I am a servant. So that fellow went to meet his impersonalist friend and he said, "What? I gave you Soham mantra and you made it Dasoham?" Okay, we'll adjust it a little bit. Just put a Sa in front of Dasoham. So it became Sada Soham. I am always that. I am always that. Sada means always. Sada Soham. So he came back home. And his friend said, "Oh man, what is the Sada Soham?" Okay. You add a Da in front of it again. So he became Da Sada Soham. Da Sada Soham. I am the servant of the servant of the servant. So this is how the impersonalists and the devotees are always trying to understand their position. According to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our position is to be the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of Sri Krishna. So here, Vritrasura, who's at the peak of his realization, and the first thing he's asking for is the service unto the devotees, or to be situated as a servant of the devotees who are serving Krishna. Actually, it's described that being the servant of Krishna is sweeter. We may not have that realization fully, but it is sweeter, supposedly. At this point in time, theoretically, it is supposed to be sweeter than serving Krishna directly. The sweetness is that hearing about Krishna from the devotees is actually sweeter. Therefore, the Bhagavatam begins with, although this is the ripened message about Krishna, it has become sweeter by coming from the mouth of Shukadeva Goswami. It's the ripened fruit, no doubt. Nigama kalpa taror galitam phalam. But he says, Shukamukad amruta dravya samyutam. Just by coming from Shukadeva's mouth, it's being spoken by Shukadeva, has made it sweeter. Dravya samyutam. That it is, the juices have become heightened, have become even sweeter. Because every time we hear a pastime of Krishna, and we hear it from the devotees, they have a way of explaining it even more sweetly. And so we can hear the same pastime again and again and again, because each devotee adds their own realizations to the sweetness of that pastime. And that is how it is supposed to become increasingly sweeter. Each devotee realizes different aspects of a particular pastime in their own way, and they appreciate it in their own way. And so it has a very special significance to it. And also, Krishna likes us taking a position of the servant of his servants. It's very sweet. It attracts his attention far more than someone who pushes through the crowd to be first in line. Therefore, our whole philosophy is always try to serve the devotees. Try to serve the devotees. That comes first. Of course, at any point in time, the understanding that Krishna is the object of our service doesn't vanish. Because in the definition of pure devotional service, where it says Anya Abhilashita Shunya, Jnana Karma Dhanavrita, Anukulena, Krishna Anushilana, Bhakti Uttama. In that Krishna, the word Krishna is the most significant, because without Krishna being there, or being in the forefront of our consciousness, all activities are pretty much philanthropic. One doesn't see the connection of all living entities with Krishna. Then it is not pure devotional service. We honor the devotees, whoever they may be, whatever defects they may have in a worldly sense, or they may be very advanced or not so advanced or trying something. Still, the fact that they have approached Krishna, that is their glory. Their glory is not that they have manifested great qualities or that they haven't yet manifested great qualities. But the fact that they have turned towards Krishna among the billions and billions and billions and billions of living entities that are there in this universe, the few who have turned towards Krishna are definitely worshipable. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye. Yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam vetti tattvataha. So to ask Krishna that please engage me in the service of your devotees is a very pleasing prayer. And then he's asking for, of course, now the Bhagavatam is full of references and prayers that are similar. I have a presentation, maybe Saturday if I get a chance. And it's the spirit of the verses are still the same. I'll walk you through a whole set of verses that talk about serving the devotees. Some examples. When Prahlad Maharaj was in the presence of Narsingadev, and Narsingadev has touched his head and asked him, please, whatever benedictions you want, you may ask. Prahlad Maharaj offers a whole long list of prayers talking about his position, expressions of humility, and he says, please engage me in the service of Sri Narada Muni. Koham visraje, koham na visraje tava bhritya seva. How can I forget the service to your devotee? Or in the prayers of King Kulashekara, in the Mukundamala Stotra, he says that the success of my life, mad janmana phalam idam madhu kaitabare. Oh my dear Krishna, who's the killer of the demons, Madhu and Kaitava. The success of my life, mad janmana phalam. The success of my life will be, and my ardent prayer is, mad prarthaniya, that if you were to please show me some mercy, mad anugraha esha eva, tvad bhritya bhritya paricharaka bhritya bhrityasya mam smara lokanatha. That you please make me a servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of your devotees. That is the success of his prayers, etc. So there are a long list of things. In one purport, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada translates the 4th verse of Shikshashtaka also like that, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, and he ends the line with, mama janmani janmani shware bhavatat bhaktir haituki tai, which means that life after life, please engage me in devotional service. So Prabhupada adds a beautiful flavor to it. He says, life after life, please engage me in the service of your devotees. Because bhakti cannot be in the absence of service to the devotees. Because it says, Anukulena Krishna Anushilena. Where that verse Prabhupada describes is that one is asking for sadhana bhakti. So, where he describes life after life, saying, please allow me to engage in devotional service under the guidance of your devotees. So, how to perform devotional service? Or how to express it? In this verse, Vritrasura is giving 3 ways of expressing it. He says, Manaha smarata asupatir gunams. The third line. Let my mind always remember the glories of Krishna. Smarata asupate, the Lord of my life. Gunams, his qualities. And Grunita Vak. And let me chant those glories with my mouth. Let my speech always be the glorification of Krishna. And he says, Karma karotu kayaha. And let my work always be such that it glorifies Krishna. Let my body be utilized in such a way. So when we say Atma, we hear that it has many connotations. Atma, of course, means soul. It also means body. It also means mind. So he's saying that let me engage my body, mind and words in the service or in the glorification of Krishna. So Manaha, what is in the mind manifests in our speech. And what is in the mind manifests in our actions. So if the mind is filled with contemplations about the qualities of Krishna, how we're receiving Krishna's mercy, not just we, how others are also receiving Krishna's mercy, then our words will come out such. And our actions will also express it such. Generally, we find the mind is filled with other things as well. And that's why in our words and behaviors, other things also manifest. And those things cause friction, dissension, misunderstandings, quarrel, etc. Because our mind is not filled with, as we say, mind is not fully Krishna conscious. So whatever is in the mind comes out in our speech. So as practicing devotees, we are meant to culture our mind in such a way that we are able to see in others and ourselves and express, even for ourselves and others, how Krishna's mercy is manifesting. That is called gunams. He's talking about here. The word guna means quality. It also means rope. So when we talk about the 3 modes of nature, we say they're like ropes that have bound the conditioned living entity. Now, you can also think that guna for a devotee is the ropes of love that are binding the devotee to Krishna, such that they don't want to go away anywhere. And go away anywhere means they don't want their mind to move away from Krishna. So filling the mind with this is using our everyday, now this is the practical part, using our mind in our day-to-day engagement in looking for the good qualities of the devotees. Because the mind by default goes to the bad qualities. Because there is resonance. In physics, we learn resonance. or in music, how to tune a piano. You have tuning forks, and you vibrate the tuning fork so it vibrates at a particular frequency, and you move it over the strings of a piano, and whichever frequency is that particular string, it will vibrate along the same frequency. That's called resonance. Mind is vibrating in a particular frequency, and that frequency only picks up the lower qualities because that's how it's cultured. So even if there are good qualities, the frequency just doesn't match. We don't see it. Like, what? Where? But anything less than good, as soon as it enters the bad and worse areas, there's perfect resonance. We can look at it and we can recognize it. You say, there you go. But the point is, we can recognize it because our mind is in that frequency. If our mind is not in that frequency, we may see it and treat it in a completely different way than the way the mind usually treats it. So our practice of daily chanting, praying to Krishna to please remove those things in my heart that are blocking or limiting me to that lower frequencies, if you will, is to culture in such a way that our mind starts resonating at the higher, different frequency, if you will, such that we can appreciate the qualities of the devotees, the qualities of Krishna, etc. And we have to make an attempt. It may seem artificial in the beginning because anything new that we are learning seems artificial. If a person is learning to ride a bike that is very new, that they're new to it, it seems artificial. When we first learn to do arati, it seems artificial because our hands are not used to moving in a particular way. We're not used to ringing the bell this way or anything. For many of us, eating with the hand as an experience when in the Hare Krishna movement. Otherwise, we're all used to spoons and and you see that you sit with the devotees, you come for this experience. Look, nice looking prasadam. Devotees put their hand right, and it's like, whoa, hold on a second, what is that? It seems artificial. And you give them a few months or weeks or whatever, and they're doing exactly the same thing. Eating with the hand. In fact, everything was eaten with the hand. Devotees eat noodles also with the hand. Have you seen? Pasta also goes in with the hand. It seems artificial in the beginning, and then it becomes more natural. Similarly, expressing appreciation for the devotees seems a little artificial because I really can't see something. How can I say something when I can't see it? It seems artificial. Then that's an exercise to go into find something that we can say. And that's individually something, some exercise is needed. And if we cannot see, even if we tried, then we pray to Krishna. How unfortunate. Please help me see something that I'm missing out. And to express it. Or even say to the devotee, it's difficult for me, but I want to express it for my own purification. And using the body, here Prabhupada writes, the body should be engaged in physical activity under the order of the master. So the point of being the servant of the servant is to be working, using the word working, cultivating our Krishna consciousness under the guidance of spiritual master and those who are experienced in Krishna consciousness. So he's asking for that. Please let my life be such that my body, mind, and words be used in the service, engaged in Krishna's service. Any comments, questions? If not, we'll move to the next verse. Okay, next one. Text 25. So these are series of prayers. O my Lord, source of all opportunities. I do not desire to enjoy in Dhruvaloka, the heavenly planets, or the planet where Lord Brahma resides. Nor do I want to be the supreme ruler. I do not desire to be the master of the powers of mystic yoga, nor do I want liberation if I have to give up your lotus feet. Purport. A pure devotee never desires to gain material opportunities by rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord. A pure devotee desires only to engage in the loving service to the Lord, in the constant association of the Lord and his eternal associates, as stated in the previous verse, Dasanudasa Bhavitasmi. As confirmed by Narottam Das Thakur, Tandera Charana Sevi, Bhakta Sane Vasa, Janame Janame Hoye Ei Abhilasha. To serve the Lord and the servants of his servants in the association of devotees is the only objective of a pure, unalloyed devotee. In the beginning of our Krishna consciousness, our motivations are mixed. Or we come to Krishna perhaps with absolutely no spiritual desires. And then as we cultivate our Krishna consciousness, we're meant to increase the proportion of spiritual desires in our heart and reduce the proportion of material desires to such a degree that one day the heart becomes free of any material desire. Anya abhilashita shunya. Some other desire go away so easily because we are motivated by desire. This is the main thing that drives us to doing whatever we are doing. And in most cases, what that desire is, most people are not even aware of. We are not so aware because our desires are not sitting in our, what we say, conscious mind. Our desires are sitting in our subconscious mind. And that subconscious mind is what drives us in most cases. And the point is that our process is to become Krishna conscious, is to extract or remove things from the subconscious mind, which doesn't happen by our own, let's say, determination or decision to do so. If I decide from today, I will not have any material desire, that's very fantastic because 4 seconds later, something else will be motivating me. So those desires from the subconscious mind are removed by the power of the holy name. That's called Chetodarpana Marjana. So unless chanting is done properly, sometimes we even chant with material desires. Fine, we start somewhere. And the potency of the holy name is such that it has the ability to cut through those hard layers of material desires and touch the soul. That's called Chetodarpana Marjana. And by that, our subconscious mind becomes clean. Clean doesn't mean empty. It means that now the desires of the soul manifest, soul proper, which are purely Krishna conscious. And so Vritrasura is saying, I'm expressing to you, I do not want to be the master of the heavenly planets, Dhruvaloka, the earthly realm, the lower planetary systems. Because just few verses ago, he expressed it. Where he said, Divi Bhumaha. Yeah. Divi Bhumau Rasayam. Divi means the heavenly realm, Bhuma, the earthly realm, and Rasaya. The Rasayam means the hellish realm or the Netherlands. I don't want any of those. I don't want to go to Amsterdam. That's the point he's making. I don't want to be in Amsterdam. Where do I want to be? I want to. I don't want any of. Uh, I don't want to have. I don't want mastery over any of the yogic siddhis, because the yogic siddhis Prabhupada described have a tendency to distract us from the actual goal of life, because they're really fantastic. One can levitate, one can become very tiny, one can become very heavy. For that, you don't need much yogic siddhi. Becoming heavy is very easy. But becoming light is difficult. It requires yogic siddhi. And then being able to grasp things and objects that are miles and miles, hundreds of miles away, just by extending one's hand, bringing stuff, makes a person very powerful. What's the power in that? They get cheap followers very quickly. Srila Prabhupada describes in the Leelamrita that he saw a yogi who had come to his house, who asked some person in the crowd, "What would you like?" And they said, "I want a pomegranate from Afghanistan." And the sap was still oozing. It was a fresh pomegranate from Afghanistan. So sitting in India, in Calcutta somewhere, he knew where the pomegranate was. I mean, if we try without perfecting it, we might pick up some fruit in someone's house, like, oh, sorry, wrong one. But he was able to pick a pomegranate fresh. It's called Prapti Siddhi. And as the yogic siddhis increase, they become kamavasayita, that they can start controlling a person's mind. That's really powerful. They can put people into such trance and illusion. They can control their minds. I imagine having those siddhis. He says, no, I don't want that. Well, I want, even if I get liberation, and if that liberation means that I have to give up your lotus feet, I have to give up your service, then I do not want that. Bhaktivinoda Thakur prays that if I am given the option of a life of Brahma, sitting on top of the universe and living for 311 trillion years and being such a powerful person, but I have to be devoid of Krishna consciousness, I do not want such a life. Rather, I would be a worm or a dog in the house of your devotees, where I can serve them. I prefer that position. So Vritrasura was also saying, I don't want any such position by which even there is the slightest opportunity of forgetting you, because I have to deal with opulences in such a way that I might forget the source of all these opulences. Okay, we may not become the king of the heavenly planets, but we can, in our own minds, create our own what we call ivory towers and become the kings or queens of such places and forget Krishna. The point is making is, please bless me that I never forget you. Our main malady in this material world, why we have this beautiful, fantastic body, I'm being sarcastic, we have this fantastic body, is because we've forgotten Krishna. And this is like His Holiness Prabhupada Maharaj says, this is a flag. It is a constant reminder you have forgotten Krishna. That's why you have this body. It may be a very good-looking body. It may be a very strong body. It may be a very able body. Yet, it's a flag that says you have forgotten Krishna. And so, that reminder is to make us humble. That, oh, what wonderful qualities I'm manifesting. But my problem is I have forgotten Krishna. Or humility is, I'm trying to remember Krishna. And I need the devotees to remind me of Krishna. If one is to practice Krishna consciousness in complete solitude, one can't remember Krishna. It's not easy, unless one is so advanced. But trying to remember Krishna in solitude it's futile. It's not possible. So next verse. O lotus-eyed Lord, as baby birds that have not yet developed their wings always look for their mother to return and feed them, as small of milking, when they will be allowed to drink the milk of their mothers, or as a morose wife whose husband is away from home always longs for him to return and satisfy her in all respects, I always yearned for the opportunity to render direct service unto you. Purport. A pure devotee always yearns to associate personally with the Lord and render service unto him. The examples given in this regard are most appropriate. A small baby bird is practically never not satisfied unless allowed to suck the milk from the mother's udder, and a chaste, devoted wife whose husband is away from home is never satisfied until she has the association of her beloved husband. So now he's talking about direct service, which is not a violation of 2 verses ago where he said, I want to be the servant of your servant. They're the same thing. Direct service may mean one is offering different services to Krishna in person directly. But the consciousness is always that I am being engaged by your devotees, my dear Lord. And I'm doing this as an assistance to what is more important than, finally, it's between you and me. Others can go away. I've been waiting for that day. So much servant of the servant. Now I'm your servant. Even in direct service, I'm this assistant of your devotee. I'm being engaged by your devotees to serve you. That is the mood. And so he's giving a few analogies. Now, these analogies are worldly, they're material. Service to Krishna cannot be compared to anything material. So, the reason that material analogies are given is just to get a point of reference, what it feels like. To give us a sense of the intensity of either an emotion or to get a visual picture of what it looks like. He says, Ajata paksha eva matram khaga. Young birds that cannot fly yet are fully dependent on their mothers for their nourishment and survival. Similarly, a devotee also feels that they are completely dependent on Krishna for their survival and nourishment in life. That means outside of that nourishment, there isn't anything for them to look to. But as soon as they get wings, they become independent. So the point is about being like those young birds who are dependent, who know that they cannot survive without the mother feeding them. Similarly, a devotee also feels that I cannot survive without being nourished by Krishna's service. If I don't have service, I'm dead. Spiritually speaking, I'm dead without service. So the point is to always feel that it is our responsibility. It's not someone else's responsibility. That, oh Prabhu, you're not nourished today. Here, let me do something for you. Of course, devotee is always sweet and nice. But it is our responsibility to keep that connection of nourishment. To be eager to feel nourished by Krishna through hearing, through chanting, studying, so here as we saw, through our words, body and mind. These are the 3 gates of nourishment, if you will. And the devotee is praying, let me be like that. Because right now, we feel in this material world that we can survive. And there are many examples of so-called persons who have survived in the material world without Krishna. So the devotee says, I don't want such survival. That's just That's a struggle for survival. I want to be nourished by you. I want to be nourished by your service. So that's one. Second, stanyam yatha vatsaraha kshudartha. Kshudartha means hungry, distressed by hunger. We hear in Bhagavad Gita, artha, artharthi. Artha means distress. And kshudartha means distressed by hunger. This is a very, very big problem. Because when a person is hungry, they cannot think of anything else. Prabhupada there's some persons who argued with Prabhupada that some people are very poor. They don't even get anything to eat. How can you ask them to chant Hare Krishna? And Prabhupada said, that is why we invite them to come chant with us and take prasadam, because it solves the problem of distress of hunger. Because a person who's well fed feels happy and they can do things. So kshudartha means distressed by hunger. Like a calf who's so distressed by hunger that the only thing that the calf wants is the mother cow's milk. If you feed the calf some hay or grass, it doesn't care for it. In fact, if any of you know how to milk a cow, I only know theoretically, that the cow will not release her milk until she sees the calf standing in front of her. So every morning and evening when the cows have to be milked, the cowherd men and women, they bring the calf in the presence of the mother. And by her affection, when she looks at the calf, she licks the calf and gives all her affection. Then she starts giving her milk. So the calf gets the first, the first batch of milk, if you will. And then she's milked. The cow is milked to get the rest of the milk. And the calf will not settle for anything else. Have you ever seen the eagerness with which a calf takes her mother's milk? It was very interesting if you see. Just very eager. So here the nourishment, I can't survive. And second, as a calf, I'm very eager for that service. That without being nourished by service to Krishna, I'm feeling like I'm starving. Now this one is an interesting one. Priyam priyeva vyushitam vishanna mano aravindaksha didrikshate tvam. Priyam priyeva. That the wife or the lover, she feels, I'm reading the word-to-word translation. In the translation, Prabhupada says, a morose wife whose husband is away from home always longs for him to return and satisfy her in all respects. Because for a chaste wife who has a loving husband, that relationship gives happiness. In modern context, this analogy has its own, risks, if you will, because the most distress is in that relationship, and all problems start from that epicenter. So all earthquakes happen with long Richter scale from that epicenter. But if that relationship is strong and well nourished, Arjuna describes the opposite in Bhagavad Gita, that when oh Krishna, why do you want to engage me in such a warfare where all the men will be killed and the women will become vulnerable, and from there will come a lot of unwanted population, progeny, so the Varna Sankara. So the other is also true, that when that epicenter of a family unit between husband and wife, there is proper loving relationships together for serving Krishna, then the other concentric circles that come from that, as families, relatives, they become strong. They become Krishna conscious, if you will. They nourish the rest of society. And it's between that wife and husband relationship. That is where, according to Vritrasura, the happiness of that service. So one is being wanting to be fully dependent on Krishna to be nourished, very eager for that service, and feeling very happy and fulfilled in that service. And the absence of which makes the mind distressed. The absence of service makes the mind distressed, hungry, if you will, and robs the person of the idea, or robs the person of the sense of being dependent on Krishna. Final verse, and then we'll open for some discussion. There's no purport to this one. Text 27. O my Lord, my Master, I am wandering throughout this material world as a result of my fruitive activities. Therefore, I simply seek friendship in the association of your pious and enlightened devotees. My attachment to my body, wife, children, and home is continuing by the spell of your external energy. But I wish to be attached to them no longer. Let my mind, my consciousness, and everything I have be attached only to you. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 6th canto, 11th chapter of the Srimad Bhagvatam, entitled The Transcendental Qualities of Vritrasura. So in the previous verse, he says, just as a wife, a morose wife whose husband is far away from home always longs for him to return and satisfy her in all respects. In the next verse, he says, my attachment to my body, wife, children, and home is continuing by the spell of your external energy. So, in the previous verse, the analogy is about how that relationship, a proper relationship, is satisfying. Here he's talking about that I am looking outside my relationship with you, my dear Krishna, for the satisfaction. And that comes from a material perspective about myself. So I look for satisfaction in my body, in my wife, children, home, etc. Because in the Bhagavatam we hear, Atho graha kshetra sutapta vittair janasya mohoyam aham mama iti. The root cause of the problem is these two or two-dimensional or two-faceted problem called aham and mama. I and mine. I am this body and everything is mine. Or I want to make everything mine. Or whatever is in my possession is my source of happiness. My body is his wife, children, home, wealth, etc. Gruha, kshetra. Gruha means house. Kshetra means land or property. Suta, children. Apta, relatives. Vritta, my occupation. Janasya moha. These are the things that bewilder the common person in this world. And he thinks, aham mama iti. Everything is about I and mine. And he's asking, let my mind be free of it. And let my mind, my consciousness, and everything be attached only to you. You'll see a lot of these prayers are parallel to Shikshashtaka prayers. So previously he said, I don't want any wealth, I don't want any other sovereignty over the three worlds, na dhanam, na chanam, na sundarim, like that. Here he's saying, asakta chittasya na natha bhuyat. May there not be any other attachment, asakta, chittasya, of my heart. Let it not be attracted to anything else or anyone else but you. So Sikshashtaka ends also with Mat Prananathas Tusa Eva Na Aparaha. That the Lord of my life is also you and no one else. So he's expressing very beautiful prayers and realizations about his relationship with Krishna. The next chapter is when Vritrasura is killed by Indra. And it says Vritrasura's glorious death as coming up tomorrow. Any questions, comments? Okay. Since there are no questions or comments, here's a homework assignment for all of you who are in class today. And if you don't come back to class tomorrow, that means you haven't done your homework. So please come with your homework. The homework is very simple. Let's take today, so 8:30 in the morning. Let's take today and till tomorrow morning's Bhagvatam class. Let's make a genuine effort, myself included. Let's make a genuine effort on these three categories of body, mind, and words, to use them exclusively for serving Krishna and glorifying Krishna and Krishna's devotees, of course. That's what it means. Body, mind, and words. And please let's note for ourselves those spaces of time or moments of time or spans of day that we forget. And to whatever degree possible, use body, mind, and words in glorifying devotees, in glorifying Krishna, as we discussed earlier. That's the assignment. And tomorrow when we meet, tomorrow class will be given by Jagadananda Prabhu. I will request him that some part of the time is for expressing what we learned about ourselves, what some challenges that we might have faced in the course of the day while we're trying genuinely to use our body, mind, and words in the service of Krishna and his devotees. Plus some successes. It's not that all failures are there, some successes will also be there. And to share with the devotees those small successes or small failures. Details may not be necessary, but it's good, because when such exercise, it will become, the lesson goes deeper in the heart. Okay? Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So please don't forget the homework.